BIA Subcommittee meeting, January 21st, sound check one, sound check one. Sound check two, sound check two.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. We are currently waiting for quorum. So we will go into quorum, waiting for quorum mode, which will be 15 minutes,
Up to 15 minutes.
up to 15 minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
Good morning. Unfortunately, we do not have quorum. We are anticipating quorum, so we are going to move ahead to 7.1, which is presentations. So I would like to welcome Sarah Linfoot Facina, the project manager of Healthy and Safe Communities, is here to present on the seat review. Please begin your presentation, Sarah.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of committee. It's nice to see some of your faces again. It's been a while since been to speak with you. I'm Sarah Linfoot Facina, Project Manager for Event Planning in the Recreation Division. For those of you who I haven't met, Recreation leads the city's Special Events Advisory Team, which is also referred to as SEAT, which is a cross-departmental team that reviews requests for events primarily taking place outdoors on city property. Just a quick agenda here. We don't have a lot of time, but I want to leave some time for questions at the end. The Special Events Advisory Team has been in existence since 2001 and is made up of approximately 25 staff from across the organization, including emergency services, police, paramedics, fire, public health, parks, licensing, waste, corridor management, and transportation, among there's a whole other bunch of folks as well that are on our team. We review approximately 400 requests each year from third-party event organizers requesting to host events. On this slide are some images of BIA events from 2024 to highlight the diversity of events being offered by the BIAs. As previously mentioned, most events that SEAT reviews are those taking place on city property. I'd like to highlight that city property includes spaces that require permits, like parks, parkettes, and roadways. But some of the less obvious spaces that also require SEAT's review are metered parking spaces and municipal parking lots, which are invoiced for use, and also sidewalks. So sidewalks often get overlooked, but they are part of the municipal right-of-way. Furthermore, some of our city's bylaws, including the noise bylaw, require SEAT's approval where amplified sound is concerned. So there are quite a few BIA events that happen on sidewalks, just to keep those in mind. The slide just has a quick overview of our application timelines and late fees for 2025. Event organizers that held events in 2024 received a link to the 2025 application in December and have been encouraged to apply before the end of January, so before we open up the application to new events, which will be February 3rd. Our policy states that organizers have first right of refusal over dates and locations for events, so those that took place in 2024 get a head start in applying for the following year. We're in the process of introducing a late fee to avoid last-minute submissions. It's very difficult to ensure that all the proper permissions and permits and insurance are obtained to ensure a safe event without adequate time to review applications. And just for historical purposes, we used to actually ask for 120 days from event organizers. So 60 days is 2 months, and that gives us enough time to review and ensure that everything is in place. Most BIAs have their event calendars confirmed at the beginning of each year. Therefore, we encourage everyone to submit their applications by the end of January if possible. As in 2024, we're using SurveyMonkey Apply for our application intake. If you created an account last year, you'll be able to sign in easily this year to get your applications completed. And as we've always required, a site map you need to submit one of those in order to complete the application. And we ask that you ensure that it's as detailed as possible, including all of your programming aspects. So that was short and sweet. Happy to take any questions from any of the members.
Okay, great. I'll just ask you to pull the presentation down if you don't mind. There we go. Okay, are there any questions for Sarah? I see Susan.
Yeah, just can you clarify sidewalk use? If we are having an event in our core where we are anticipating a lot of visitors using the sidewalk, so I'm specifically talking about our tree walk, but there's no actual event taking place on the sidewalk, do we have to include that in our application?
If you're already submitting an application, Susan, you can include it as part of your description. The piece that we want to ensure is that if you are having live performances, for example, on the sidewalk. But if it's part of your event anyways, just include it as part of the description. We do ask on the application whether you're using sidewalks or roadways, you can indicate what the locations are. So it would be covered off there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next up is Emily.
Just wondering if there's a way that we could be informed of any approved seat permits within our BIA areas, just to keep an eye on what events are happening around here.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can. I'll work with Christina on that and see if we can put together a list to share.
That'd be perfect. Thank you.
That's great. Nadine?
I had the same question. Thanks, Emily.
And I will just pass the chair to Susan. I do have a quick comment. I know last year, Sarah, you helped me out with a couple last minute events. I guess there's a bit of a gray areas. Like that was an event that was sort of thrown my way last minute to get together. So in that case, would there be like an understanding that this was like a city run event that they asked us to overdo and then there would be no late fee? Like, is there any wiggle room to the late fees at all? Because again, I'm usually pretty good at getting them in, but for this one, it was given to me very last minute.
Yeah, I mean, of course, those unexpected ones are hard to predict. It's really those annual ones that, you know, folks know that they're doing year after year that we'd really like people to get those in a timely manner. So Susie, yeah, you know, we're obviously going to have to review those on a case by case basis and understand that there's last minute requests sometimes.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to flag that. Is there any other questions for Sarah? Okay, thanks, Sarah, so much. I guess I can't do anything to receive it, so we will carry on to 7.2. Joanne Starr, the Manager of Parking Operations, and Brian Hollingworth, Director of Transportation Planning and Parking, are here to present on the review of on-street parking rates and hours for 2025. Please go ahead with your presentation.
It's Brian Hollingworth here, Director of Transportation Planning and Parking. We have our parking operations team here. The presentation will be done by Juliana Petrovich, Senior Project Manager of Parking Operations, and also have Joanne Starr, as mentioned, Manager of Parking Operations, and Stephen Carius, Project Manager. And we'll look forward to hearing your comments after the presentation.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of committee. As noted, I'm Juliana Petrovich, Senior Project Manager of Parking with the city. Today, I'll be providing an overview of the proposed rate and hour changes for paid on-street parking. So the purpose of the presentation is to highlight current and proposed regulations for paid on-street parking and gather feedback from yourselves before submitting a report to council. Please note that any changes we propose are subject to council approval. We are proposing increases in the hourly rate as well as a number of changes to improve consistency, parking distribution, and turnover while working towards financial stability for parking. This is simultaneous to new technology implementations and the anticipated 2025 implementation of new parking lot wayfinding signage. The rate and hour changes are planned to be implemented in a single rollout this spring. The rationale for these changes is in 2021, the parking master plan was approved and it included several recommendations guiding on-street parking, including adopting predictable rate increases, evaluating the feasibility of extending paid parking to 7 days a week, maintaining higher prices on-street than off-street, and implementing performance-based pricing in high-demand areas. Our on-street parking rates and hours have remained unchanged since 2020, in part to support businesses through the pandemic. Off-street parking rates have been increased incrementally during that time, and in some cases now exceed on-street rates. We are proposing a rate adjustment for downtown. Municipal car parks in the downtown and vicinity have an hourly rate of $3.25 per hour. This is lower than private parking lots and higher than the current on-street rate of $2 per hour. The parking master plan recommends on-street rates be a minimum of 15% higher than off-street. This would be an equivalent to $3.75 per hour, with the off-street being $3.25. A rate increase from $2 per hour to $3.75 per hour would be excessive. Our proposal is to adopt a phased increase to $3 per hour this year, and then $3.50 per hour in 2 years in 2027. Off-street hourly rates in the downtown would be held constant through 2027, just to try to achieve that balance. So the proposed area for the $3 per hour rate increase is the downtown community improvement plan area, which is shown here in purple. The Locke Street BIA abuts this area, but it's not included, and the Barton BIA is predominantly outside of the $3 per hour area, except around General Hospital. We also are proposing a rate adjustment citywide. As noted, the on-street parking rates have been $2 per hour since 2020. The parking master plan recommends an increase of 5% per year, which would correlate to $2.55 per hour this year. Therefore, we're proposing an on-street parking rate of $2.50 per hour for all on-street paid parking areas outside of the downtown CIPA. We're also proposing a standardization of paid hours. Currently, paid hours are inconsistent and fairly outdated. They fail to reflect peak demand periods like evenings and weekends. We are recommending 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily for all on-street paid parking, moving towards paid parking 7 days per week. This better reflects on-street parking's function to provide short-term parking and turnover for customers and promote the use of municipal off-street lots for those who will require parking greater than 2 hours. And then we're also recommending the standardization of paid duration. The maximum duration for on-street paid parking spaces is predominantly 2 hours, meaning that you can only pay for up to 2 hours and you're required to move your vehicle after that point. There are variations of 1 and 3 hours in some areas. This leads to inefficiencies and confusion, particularly when these different time limits abut the 2 hour maximum. Standardizing on-street meter spaces to 2 hours is consistent and intuitive for customers. We are proposing that Locke Street BIA and Westdale's angle parking areas would be the exception, remaining as 3 hours due to the lack of municipal off-street parking in the vicinity. Changes to on-street parking rates require council approval. Our target is to bring the report forward to the Planning Committee in March. The implementation of meter rates typically requires a month or 2 of lead time, and we do like to target the first day of a financial quarter. Any changes to hours of operation and associated signage changes require several months lead time. So in summary, we have a patchwork of regulations from the former municipalities, and it doesn't really serve customer needs. On-street parking downtown is dramatically cheaper than off-street, driving demand and stagnating turnover in our prime parking. Pricing changes will support much needed investment in parking infrastructure, and these changes are guided by a shared goal to provide and protect affordable public parking facilities that support business activity. Thank you so much for hearing our presentation, and we look forward to your feedback.
Okay, are there any questions? Nadine?
I have a couple of questions. The first, thank you for the presentation. I wanted to clarify, you said that Barton Village is primarily outside of the proposed increase area. Since part of the BIA is within and the majority of it is outside, I'm curious about what it might look like to ensure that the entire BIA is within the same scope. I'm not opposed to the potential that that means that the BIA opts in to the proposed increase, just so that in the interest of standardizing the pricing, I'm just curious about whether that is an option or if that's on the table or.
Can I answer that?
Sorry, through the chair, in response to your question, I think we would defer to yourselves, like your BIA. Of course, like you are welcome to opt in to the higher rate, or we can look at some advertising material to specify the differentiation, or anything like that, really.
Okay.
Through the chair, if I just may add some clarity in case there was a misunderstanding. So there's two rate increases being proposed, one being from $2 to $3 in the downtown, and then for the rest of the areas, it would be from $2 to $2.50. So regardless, you would be seeing a rate increase. It's just a question of which rate increase. And we looked at a few different options for how to distinguish it by geography. You could, there's no reason why we couldn't do it on a street by street basis. We just kind of want something that's easily explainable and intuitive to the customers so that, obviously when they go to the Barton Street BIA, they're not looking at two different rate areas. So we're open to feedback in that regard. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. My second question actually has to do with the Passport app. And something that has come up, we've had some questions about this and just wondering, since we've got you here, if somebody might be able to answer this. It seems that the convenience fee that's charged, the 15-cent convenience fee, that if a person, say they put 15 minutes on the app, when they go to add additional time, even though the payment hasn't been processed yet until the parking time expires, they are charged an additional convenience fee if they add time. Is there a way around that? Is it intended to be that way? Yeah, just curious.
Through you, Chair. It's Joanne Starr with Municipal Parking. The Passport pay by phone fee, it does have a 15-cent fee, as you mentioned. It's like a user fee that's automatically charged through the app. We don't have control over that. But one of the things that we are certainly open to as part of this change in rates is looking at taking that user fee, if you will, as part of the cost. And we would take it so that it no longer is charged in additional to the rate that a person pays at the meter. So for example, if they pay $2.50 for their time at a meter, they won't be charged that additional 15 cents. That instead would be absorbed.
Understood. Thank you.
Emily?
Just on the point of the 3-hour time limit for BIAs that don't have the off street municipal parking available. I did just want to flag that in my BIA proper, we only have 16 municipal spaces in a lot. The rest are all private, which I believe is the reason for the disparity in those costs there. But I will say that I know in the original parking master plan, there was a lot of suggestions that new parking initiatives in the downtown core be explored, whether it's through adding municipal parking to developments, things like that. And so as we continue to lose our surface lots to development, I'm just wondering if there's any updates on that initiative.
Yes, through the chair. So I'm for 100% clarity, you're the downtown executive director, right, Emily?
Sorry, yes.
Yeah. Just wanted to be sure I didn't get off base. Yes, downtown is kind of unique in that it excludes areas like James Street North, for example, where the majority of what people would maybe consider downtown on-street parking, James Street South. I think maybe I could get you to repeat your question again, just so I fully understand your question.
For sure. Yeah, it's basically, oh, am I still here? There we go. Sorry, my computer acted up. Just the idea that we very much rely on private parking down here, but that's not always promised to us as the spaces are being developed, which is a good thing overall. But I think that in the parking master plan, it was addressed that we would have to find some creative solutions for bringing more public parking to downtown Hamilton in ways that work for the area, that are efficient, that are eventually able to be transformed into different things once the parking's no longer necessary. But in the interim, I think we are still struggling with parking down here. In that 2021 master plan, it was shown that 95% of spaces are taken in peak times, and that was before we lost many of those surface lots through different developments. So I'm just wondering if there's anything on the horizon to kind of address that shortfall down here.
Got it. Thank you for the clarity. And you're 100% correct in that the parking master plan did identify that challenge. From a public parking supply, our major supply in the downtown now is the convention center and the York Parkade, and then the rest is largely private lots, which, as you mentioned, are being redeveloped. Our ultimate kind of vision, notwithstanding the many challenges of cost, is to, as these developments occur, to try and secure an amount of public parking, either municipal parking or through call it joint parking deals with the development. So they would provide a level of parking that could be accessible to the public, very much like the Toronto Parking Authority does. But I'll say that, it is challenging to create those deals. The other things that we're looking at is trying to eke out more parking spaces here and there. There's not a lot of opportunities left in the downtown BIA proper, but certainly on some of those fringe areas, and Joanne's team has been doing that to try and find a few extra spaces that can be metered and they're available for businesses.
Thanks.
Okay, I'd like to pass the chair to Susan. So I guess where I have an issue, I'm sure no one's surprised about, the downtown is suffering right now in a lot of different ways that outside areas of the downtown are not. So the fact that you would impose an increase and then to take away our free after 6 o'clock and on weekends parking is really detrimental to my businesses. I can tell you right now, my board will never support this.
Based on what the BAs have told us. And so it's being used up like free gas. So the intent would be to try and attract more people to the better value off-street parking where they're staying for longer durations and free.
Deciding whether they're going to go to the mall to shop where it's free parking, or if they're going to come downtown and fly into one of my businesses, what do you think they're going to choose, right? And then to put more money, to have them pay more money to do that and less options to do that with, especially over the Christmas season. It's just my businesses won't be able to sustain that kind of competition in parking. So I'm happy to take this offline, Brian, with you, but I can tell you right now, my board will probably not be supportive of this, just based on my experience. But maybe there's some other compromises that we can discuss offline, so. Okay, moving on to 7.3.